So, we still got problem.
Big problem. All right, who's ready to go find the spy?
Right behind you.
Hey, it's Snake, and in this video, I am going to be talking about the Covert Instruments butterfly comb. Apologies for the amount of motion blur in the webcam. I need to find a better webcam and maybe also get some better lighting because right now, all I have to work with is the natural light behind me and my ceiling light. This C922 doesn't have very many adjustable settings, and as far as I'm aware of, I cannot turn the shutter speed up. So there's gonna be a lot of motion blur as I do some of these, tricks with the knife like that, which isn't ideal, but you're just gonna have to bear with me here. Anyway, this is the Covert Instruments butterfly comb, which is the second in their line of fidget picks after the Grav pick. This review is gonna be kind of a weird one because unlike the Grav pick, where it has multiple profiles that you can switch out and I can actually demonstrate some high skill and high security lockpicking with it, the butterfly comb doesn't really have much to work with as far as being a lockpicking tool goes. It has this hinge with these three profiles on it. We got three different comb picks right there. And that's really all this thing does. If you've ever seen the comb picks from the Misfit Toys set, the butterfly comb is basically the same thing as the 4-tooth comb, 5-tooth comb, and 6-tooth comb in 25 thou, only it comes with this big handle that you can flip around like a butterfly knife. But then again, this is not really meant to be a functional bypass tool, even though it is quite successful at that. It's meant to be a fidget toy first and a lockpick second. And I talked about this previously in my review of the Grav pick. Both of these fidget picks in my testing are equally addictive. Similar to how when I have the Grav pick in my hand and I find myself unable to stop flicking it out and popping it back in like so, if I get the butterfly comb in my hand, even doing a basic open and close like that, it's just something that keeps my hand busy when I can't really think of anything else to do with it. And much like the Grav pick, I have found myself opening and closing this thing for hours on end. So I think what I'll do for this video is do a quick demonstration of how exactly a comb pick works and how to use the butterfly comb normally. There are a bunch of screws holding this together and it can be completely disassembled, so I will be completely disassembling it and showing you what's inside that makes it work. I will then show how to reassemble it, as well as some tips and tricks for maintaining your fidget picks. Not just the butterfly comb, but also the Grav pick. You'll see that later on in the video. Anyway, the way the butterfly comb works is that once you open it, you will see that all of the combs will be folded in like this. And to select the comb you want and get it staged, all you have to do is reach in here. You may need to use your fingernail a little bit, but once the 6-tooth comb on top comes out, you can then just kind of grip it with the pad of your fingertip to pull the rest of them. Then just separate out the one you want to use like so. Fold the other two back in place. Fold the one you want to use out, and it's ready. From there, it fits compactly in your pocket like so until you're ready to deploy it, at which point you can do whatever open you want to have it ready for action. Once you have the comb deployed, you take the lock that you want to target. This is a Master Lock 150. You insert the comb pick. Make sure all the teeth of the comb are aligned underneath the key pins. Lift up, and then twist the core, and the lock will be open. The reason why this works is because the comb pick is designed in such a way that it shoves both the key pins and the driver pins above the shear line. Normally for a well-designed lock, you wouldn't be able to do this, but Master Lock has a habit, let's say, of leaving too much space above the pin chambers. In my video explaining Tom O'Carroll's Hell Lock, which was a Master Lock 140, this lock happens to have the same problem. Only instead of the 5-tooth comb, you need to fold it in and bring the 4-tooth comb out to get it open. Something I will note, however, for both the Master 140 and the Master 141 is that whether or not the 4-tooth comb works on these two particular locks is bitting dependent. Sometimes if the lock has a 0 lift pin in it, that 0 lift pin will actually be too long to be shoved completely above the shear line, and you will not be able to comb it open. I see this a lot on videos about comb picking. Somebody will say that they've purchased the quad combs from Covert Instruments and they try to use it on a Master Lock 140 or 141 and it doesn't work. The reason it doesn't work is probably because whether or not these two locks can be combed is bitting dependent. Check the bitting on your lock and make sure the key doesn't have any very low cuts in it. If the key has a very low cut, it might be a 0 lift, which would make the key pin too long for the lock to be combed open. So that is a very quick overview on how comb picking and the butterfly comb work. One of the criticisms I do have about the butterfly comb is that the 6-tooth comb actually comes in 25 thou. And when I read this on the listing on Covert Instruments website, I was kind of surprised. The quad comb set comes with 3 combs in 25 thou and then a 6-pin comb in 16 thou, which is much thinner than the 25 thou comb, and that is useful for combing open locks like this Master Lock 6271, and I believe it's also used for the American Lock 2010. The reason why this thinner 16 thou comb is needed for the 6271 is because this keyway, while it looks like your typical American Lock keyway, it is actually a little bit tighter and a little bit smaller than usual. And in fact, I was only very recently able to single pin pick this lock with my Reaper set using the shallow hook. I had to rest it on top of the warding on the side because even a thinner hook in 20 thou, like the medium or deep hook from the Reaper set, it scrubs against this warding and has a lot of trouble interacting with the key pins. However, I think I can also understand the reasoning behind only including the 25 thou 6-pin comb instead of also including the 16 thou one or including it instead of the 25 thou, because this is part comb pick and part butterfly knife. You're going to be flipping this thing around a lot. You're probably going to be dropping it, especially with a comb pick staged, and I would be willing to bet that a 16 thou comb pick in the butterfly comb would probably break if you dropped it the wrong way more easily than the one in 25 thou. So if that's the reason why the 16 thou comb is not included in this butterfly comb, then I can understand that. Going into the specifics of the parts of the butterfly comb, it functions just like any butterfly knife that you would expect. This part where the comb picks are staged stands in for the blade. This handle right here is the safe handle, and this handle with the latch on it is the bite handle. I did find it kind of odd that the teeth of the comb pick face towards the safe handle at first, but the more I thought about it and the more I use this thing on various locks that are just scattered around my desk, the more I realize that it actually makes sense. Typically, when you hold a comb pick to comb a lock open, you're holding it like this, with the teeth facing this way. And if this were an actual butterfly knife, you would be holding it with the edge of the blade facing this way, relative to the hand holding it. So the fact that the bite handle is on this side of the comb pick, and the edge of a blade on a butterfly knife would be here, that just coincides really well with how you would ordinarily hold this comb pick when opening a lock with it. So when I considered that, the positioning of the bite handle in correspondence with the back side of the comb pick like this actually makes perfect sense. Speaking of which, both handles have this really neat butterfly logo on it with the words Covert Instruments on it, and a lot of butterfly knives have an indicator besides the latch on the bite handle. However, the way the logo is put is meant so that it appears on the same side regardless of which way you have the butterfly comb flipped. And that takes me into the disassembly of this thing. Inside the box, not only do you get the butterfly comb, but you also get an Allen key and a handful of extra screws, which is really nice. Covert Instruments is out there recognizing our right to repair and some kind of political bullshit with... Anyway, to disassemble the butterfly comb, you start by undoing these 4 screws, holding the 2 handles together, and each handle is actually identical, save for the little butterfly logo on it. That's 1 screw undone, that's 2, and one of the components of each handle is this plate, and the other part is a similar plate with these two screw posts on it. Let's take apart the other handle in the same way. And the latch is actually a free swinging part that goes on one of the screw posts in this half of the handle. Now, these two parts with the screw posts and these two plates are actually identical in shape and geometry and whatnot. The only thing that's different about them is that one of them has the Covert Instruments butterfly comb logo etched on it. So what I'm gonna do when I put this thing back together is put the latch on the screw post part with the butterfly on it, and then I'm going to match the plate with the butterfly on it to the handle with the latch like so. And what that will do is that it will allow this butterfly engraving to serve as a bite handle indicator for this butterfly comb. Anyway, once you've got the handles disassembled, all you have to do is undo 2 more screws on the blade part. I don't actually know what to call this thing, but it's basically the blade. That's 1, and that's 2. Once this top plate comes off, there will also be a washer that comes off with it. You're going to want to keep track of this washer because there are a few others separating the comb profiles. As you can see, those are down here like so. And this washer that goes on top of the 6-pin comb, this one, is actually noticeably thicker than the other 3 that separate the combs apart. The camera doesn't really do it justice, but if you just hold them in between your fingers like this, you can feel the difference. So make sure to set the 3 thinner washers to one side and the thicker washer to the other. These are the 3 comb profiles, and the first thing I couldn't help but notice is that with these holes that go through the screw post, they actually have kind of a resemblance to the SSF tips that go on the Covert Companion. SSF compatibility would have been a really exciting inclusion on the butterfly comb, so then I could have, for example, a butterfly short hook or something like that. But once again, design limitations meant that that could not happen. This is my everyday carry Covert Companion, and if I unfold one of the comb picks here, you may notice a bit of a difference straight away. This SSF 5-tooth comb pick is significantly longer than the one that goes on the butterfly comb. Yeah, I am pretty sure that there is no way that the Covert Instruments design team would have been able to make this work. I think this would be able to fit into the Covert Companion, but I don't want to try it because it belongs in my butterfly comb. And because of the way this part of the blade is designed to store the comb profiles in it, if it could take SSF tips, then it would just have to be comically long to accommodate the SSF profile. So, much like the Grav pick, it is a little disappointing that the butterfly comb cannot take the same SSF profiles that go in the Covert Companion, but at the same time, there's a good reason for it, and I can understand why. And even though these pieces are kind of small and thin, I mean, they are just thin plates, they do feel very solid, and they are, in fact, magnetic. Much like the Grav pick, all of the components in the butterfly comb are made of solid steel. And also much like the Grav pick, this steel feels milled and not cast, which I think explains the $65 price point. So, we've got the butterfly comb completely disassembled, but let's put it back together now. The first thing we're going to do is put the combs back into this blade holder type thing. The way you do this is you take one of the thinner washers, put it over this little post that you see here on the end of the blade housing, then take the 4-tooth comb and make sure it sits so that when it's folded in, the teeth go inward to this little ledge on this side of the blade. I'm just gonna keep calling it the blade because that's kind of the parallel for an actual butterfly knife. Then you take another thinner washer and put that on top of the 4-tooth comb. Set the 5-tooth comb on top of it in the same orientation like so. Get a thinner washer and set that on. Set the 6-tooth comb on top. And finally, take the thicker washer and put that over all of it. Now, one thing to note is that this thicker washer may not actually sit very well on top of the post. There may not be enough of the post that sticks up over all of the comb picks and washers underneath it. But just get it as closely aligned as you can, and then take the plate for the blade, make sure it's properly aligned like that, and then gently set it over the top so that it slots into the little notch at the back of the blade. And you want to make sure the washer is out of the way of that screw hole. And from there, take one of your screws, put it in, and then use the Allen key to cinch it down. You don't want to get this thing too tight because that would make it next to impossible to actually fold the combs out. Just test it for tightness and make sure that it's loose enough that you can get your fingernail in and pull the combs out, but also tight enough that when you have it fully extended like this and you want to do some cool tricks with it, it doesn't kind of start to fold in like that. And once you have the screw cinched down reasonably tightly, take another screw and put it into this other screw hole in the back. And for this one, you can go as tight as you absolutely want to. Now comes the matter of the two pieces of each handle. Even though this flat plate with the butterfly logo on it goes on this side of the safe handle, I'm actually going to put it on the other side of the bite handle like that. Again, because I think this logo would be a really good bite handle indicator. And for the plate with the screw posts, the one with the butterfly is already on the bite handle in the butterfly comb's default configuration. So I'm going to take the latch and drop it on the backside of what is going to become the bite handle, put this other screw post through the hole in the blade, and then set this plate on top. The plate on the underside will have these little circular indentations that actually align with the screw posts on the other plate. So it's really easy to just get it lined up. And in fact, if I wanted, I could pick this up and hold it like this. And as long as I keep these two plates pinched together with the screw post lined up, this thing is not gonna come apart. And it will stay together even more solidly when I put the screws back in. Now, for this screw where the hinge is, I have noticed an issue where after enough cycles of deploying and collapsing the butterfly comb, this will start to loosen up and I will have to grab the Allen key and tighten it down again. Thankfully, there is a very easy solution for that. A little bit of low strength thread locker. Make sure you get the stuff that's purple and it says low strength on the bottle because it will hold the screw in perfectly solidly, and using the low strength stuff means that you'll be able to break it with your Allen key to get it out later if you, for some reason or another, end up wanting to disassemble the butterfly comb again. Now, the way I recommend doing this is taking a piece of paper and just folding it up like so, putting a little dab of low-strength thread locker onto it, and then from there, take a toothpick and use it to apply a tiny little drop of thread locker to this tiny little screw. Because if you try to apply thread locker to the screw directly from this bottle, you will probably put way too much, and that will result in two different bad effects. First off, it may get thread locker in places where you don't want it to get, and that will result in this hinge no longer being all nice and loose and able to flip around like you would want. But the second thing that can happen is with screws as tiny as this, even with the low strength thread locker, if you put too much of it in, then it will be next to impossible to undo. I had this happen with the hinge pin on my Grav pick when I was trying to fasten it, because this hinge pin would also loosen after repeated cycles of deploying and popping back in. I put way too much thread locker on the screw threads of this hinge pin, and because of that, one side of the hinge pin is now stripped, and the other barely fits the Allen key. So I just took some of the thread locker off, only put a tiny bit on it, and now it solidly holds while still being able to be disassembled if I need to get inside the Grav pick for any reason. But that is a word of caution. Do not put too much thread locker on screws if you're going to void your warranty like this, because otherwise you're going to strip something. I actually had to grip the outside of this hinge pin with a pair of pliers to get it undone after that one time I put way too much thread locker in it. And for the back part of each of the handles, I don't think you need to put thread locker on that because there aren't really any spinning parts that can have the same effect on the screw as the hinge where the blade is. I mean, there is this latch, but it already floats pretty freely like that, so it's not too much of a concern for me. But do what you want, as long as you don't put too much thread locker on it. Do not put too much thread locker on your screws. They will get stuck solid. So I'm just gonna take this toothpick and get a tiny little droplet on there. That's perfect. And then just lightly apply that to the screw thread. Then I'm going to slot the Allen key in, drive the screw into the screw post, and then I'm just going to work this hinge a little bit to make sure that no excess thread locker has leaked out. Seems to be good. If there was any thread locker in this part, then I would have noticed it gumming up right away. And on this hinge, you can cinch the screw down as tight as you want. I'm just gonna go like that. Because of the way the screw post interacts with the hole in the blade, tightening the screw isn't going to make very much of a difference. Let's get this other screw in the back in. And there we go. That is the bite handle reassembled on the butterfly comb. As you can see, I have swapped the plates around so that the butterfly logo is on both sides of the bite handle, and that will serve as our bite handle indicator. Now, we just do the same for the safe handle. So we put the screw post through the hole in the blade, align the top plate with the screw post until it kind of slots into the indentations on the plate. And then we just get our 2 screws in. And there we go. We have a fully reassembled butterfly comb. If you happen to get any thread locker into the joint and you notice it starting to bind, provided you haven't used way too much, once again, you can just use the Allen screw to unscrew it. On most of the outer surfaces, you can get something like a lockpick in there to scrape the excess thread locker off. And then you don't need to reapply thread locker to the screw threads after that, because it will stay on the screw threads and you will notice a bit of a stiffness when you drive the screw back in. That will keep the screw solidly tapped for future disassemblies and reassemblies of this thing. So that is a quick overview of the butterfly comb. Like I said, not very much to it. It's just a comb pick inside a butterfly knife. And unfortunately, I cannot tell you how this thing performs as a butterfly knife, because even though I have learned some basic opens and closes with it and it works reasonably well in my hand, I am not a butterfly knife enthusiast. So I don't have a hobby grade butterfly knife or trainer to test this against. But if I can do some decent tricks with it like that, then you probably can too if you get one of these for yourself. So for $65, do you need the butterfly comb? And moreover, how does it compare with the Grav pick? Let's talk about this comparison on a few points. The first thing I want to talk about is functionality. How well does it function as a lockpick if that's something you care about? Well, as I discussed in my Grav pick review, it comes with 4 of the Genesis profiles, which can be used to pick your way into even some pretty advanced locks. And Lady Locks has used the medium hook on the Grav pick to pick, I believe, an ASA 700, which I have right here, or it might have been an ASA 600, I forget. The butterfly comb, on the other hand, is a comb pick, which is only good for comb picking on low security locks like the Master Lock 140. So if you want a fidget pick that can do more stuff as a lock pick, then the Grav pick is definitely what you want to go for. Now, in terms of actually being engaged with the operation of your given fidget pick, there is a lot more that you can do with the butterfly comb as opposed to with a Grav pick, which can be an upside or a downside depending on the type of experience you're looking for. What I can tell you for sure is that playing with the Grav pick is a lot more mindless. All you really need to do is just flick it out or drop it out like that, and then drop it back in, and you can just do this for hours on end. Working with the butterfly comb is a little bit more involved. Even doing a basic open and close like this one, it can take a little bit of skill and hand-eye coordination if it's something you're not used to. But at least for this basic open and close, I can do it without even looking at it. You just have to get a little bit of muscle memory down, especially if you want to do more advanced tricks, like this one that I use to open into a reverse grip, and then I flip it around. And there's an over thumb flick that you can do as well if you hold the bite handle like this and flip it over. But as you can see by the way I'm holding it now, I don't have that fully mastered yet. So, do you want the Grav pick or the butterfly comb? If you're looking for a fidget pick that is easy to play with and you can just pick it up and get it right away and just start doing this for hours on end, go for the Grav pick. If you want something that's more functional as a lock pick and comes with a turning tool, get the Grav pick. But if you want something that has a wider world of fidgeting possibilities, then go for the butterfly comb. For me personally, I like both of these, and I'm really glad I have both of them. I've played with both of these things for prolonged periods of time at about equal frequency to a rather concerning degree. Sometimes it even prevents me from getting work done because I'm just doing stuff like this. I've I've never actually double-fisted fidget picks before, but my non-dominant hand is so non-dominant that even doing this with the Grav pick is hard. Anyway, the Grav pick and butterfly comb. What do you all think? And if you are a butterfly knife enthusiast who also has a butterfly comb, let me know what you think as well. I would really love to see somebody who's a little more well-versed in this matter give their take on how, I don't know, balanced it is, how well it flips. I don't know any of this stuff about butterfly knives really. So if you do know a thing or two about butterfly knives and you've got a butterfly comb of your own, feel free to fill me in the comments. But anyway, that'll be about it for this review. I am now going to be playing with the butterfly comb for like another hour and a half straight as I edit this. Pray that the authorities don't declare me missing again. Thanks for watching, everyone. I will talk to you all later.